HarperCollins presents The White Ship, Conquest, Anarchy, and the Wrecking of Henry I's Dream, by Charles Spencer. Read by Richard Trinder. Prologue. A Cry in the Dark. Looking back on this, a night whose repercussions would change Europe's history forever, some claimed to remember nothing more than a distant noise. It had skimmed across the surface of the icy sea, the sound waves amplified by the stillness of the water, their notes hammered taut by the frost of a late November night. It caught in the northerly wind, and perhaps reached the ears of those awake on King Henry I's ship, a dozen nautical miles ahead in the voyage across the Channel. Those who claimed to have heard it in the dark would admit that they had no idea what it was. It was shrill and short-lived, like the distant squawk of a passing gull. The same noise had made it back to shore, only a mile away, in a clearer form. Some in the Norman harbour of Barfleur heard it. They were near the point where they had earlier watched the port's finest vessel, the White Ship, cast off into the night. Her departure had attracted a crowd. Some present were related to those on board and had come to say their farewells, while others were intrigued by the glamour and power of those putting out to sea. These passengers included Henry I's sole legitimate son, William, the 17-year-old heir to the Kingdom of England and to the Duchy of Normandy. Two of the king's many illegitimate children, who were openly acknowledged and loved by him, were also aboard the White Ship. With the trio of royal children sailed much of the flower of the Anglo-Norman aristocracy, as well as leading bureaucrats who made Henry's realm run smoothly, and celebrated knights who kept the peace while protecting its borders. The distinguished passengers had spent much of the afternoon and evening in the harbour, drinking hard and encouraging the crew to join in the revelry. Those in Barfleur who heard the noise assumed the merriment was reaching a crescendo on the White Ship out at sea, and headed for the warmth of home, unsurprised and unconcerned by the cry in the dark. In fact, what these witnesses to history had heard at sea and on land was a collective scream for help. The passengers of the White Ship had gone from wild festivity to dire panic in an instant, when they realized the crunch that had brought the vessel to a grinding halt was a rock that had pierced the timbers, leaving a gaping hole and allowing water to pour in. This caused the White Ship to heave to one side, making her spill her human cargo into the shockingly cold sea. Perhaps the lowliest of those on board was Berold, a butcher from Rouen, who had pursued his social superiors onto the ship, determined to get outstanding bills settled. Berold clung to part of the White Ship's mast. Then, despite the weight of his saturated goatskin tunic, he hauled himself from the freezing waves onto this life-saving perch. Next to him clambered Geoffrey de l'Aigle, a nobleman who was one of the king's illustrious knights. The unlikely pair had rescued themselves from drowning, but now they lay vulnerable to the extreme cold. They shivered uncontrollably. In the moonlight, they watched as their companions cried out and thrashed in the water, desperate for life. Berold would later note William the Prince getting safely away in the White Ship's small boat. The quick-thinking royal bodyguards had bundled him into it and were rowing hard for land, aware that their sole duty in this unfurling disaster was to preserve the life of the king-to-be. They had even left the royal treasure chest behind in the White Ship's hold. As William headed quickly to safety, Berold and de l'Aigle watched with mounting horror as the tragedy around them played out. Part 1. Triumph. Chapter 1. Conquest. In the year of grace 1066, the Lord, the ruler, brought to fulfillment what he had long planned for the English people. He delivered them up to be destroyed
Sample complete. Ready to continue?